This is Fujifilm's 18 to 120mm f4 zoom lens. It's built in mostly for video work, and I wasn't crazy with its performance, but now we have a firmware update, so let's see what happens with that firmware update installed. When I first started using this lens, I was using it on the water when I'm demonstrating fly fishing and fly casting. And the problem was its tracking was poor. It wouldn't stay on me, and that's partly the camera, partly the lens. I don't know exactly which one wasn't doing the job. Bottom line, it would drift off of me and pick up the background, then it'd be back on me again. So I ended up using my 10 to 24mm zoom lens on manual, camera on manual, use zone focusing, which was easier on a ultra wide lens, and just didn't bother with autofocus, face detection, tracking, or anything like that because it never seemed to be that reliable. So I put a little test up here. I'm going to be talking about it in a couple of minutes. I'm going to put it up and you'll be able to see what this lens performed like with the firmware installed, and I've also installed the firmware in the XS10, and I've also done it with the XH2 as well, and I've put the firmware update into this camera as well. So we're going to have the benefit of the firmware update in both camera bodies and in the lens. So let's see what happened. Okay, here we're zooming on the XH2 and you can see it drifts out of focus, snaps in, you can see the flickering going on, but it's staying fairly close. We're getting exposure shifts as well because I'm in auto exposure, and you can see that the both the focus and the exposure is shifting, but not badly. I mean, I think this is good for most amateur use. Here's a test of the zoom noise. Here I'm zooming quite quickly and you can see it makes things worse. It does not follow well. Here I'm zooming very slowly and I'm walking in front of the camera to see whether it can pick me up or does it flick to the background. And you can see it's not sharp there. I'm not really in focus. Now I'm coming into focus now. And it gets sharper as I get closer. As I back up, it stays with me a little longer. And you can see it zooming in, and you can see the focus picking up the background as I move out of the frame. Here I've switched to the XS10, and we're doing basically the same test with a zoom. This one is a little slower than before, but you can still see it still flicks out of focus, and also we have the exposure shifts. So the slower the zoom, the better it behaves. Now we're going to try a fast zoom. And as you can see, it doesn't handle it all that well, but it's fairly close. Now I'm just going to walk in front of the camera and see if it picks me up or the background. And you can see it's sort of on me here. And as I walk towards the camera, it's more in the background. And then as I get more centered, it starts to pick me up. And there I'm out of focus again. Now I'm getting closer to being in focus. It did a good job on my hand there, so that would be good for product shots. But you see the exposure shift. Manual exposure is definitely required with this combination. So the takeaway from this is to run our cameras on manual exposure. The slower we zoom, the better, and face detect works better when the subject is closer to the camera. So as you can see, the results were not bad. I mean, it didn't stay locked in perfectly in zooming unless the zoom was quite slow. But let's be realistic. If we're talking about YouTubers and casual videographers, this performance is probably adequate. And this was also tested on an XS10 and an XH2. Neither one has fast readout speeds. Neither one is likely to be the most quick focusing Fujifilm body out there. I would think if we put this lens on the XH2S or the XS20, we would probably get better results. So it is a bit of a reflection of both the camera body and the lens. But bottom line, I think for everyday videography, perhaps not professional, but for everyday videography, YouTube, that sort of thing, for some of the older camera bodies that don't have the fastest autofocus, it's going to be perfectly adequate. And I think it does a nice job as a walking around zoom lens. I know it's not critically sharp, so if that bothers you, you can go get one of the other zoom lenses. But, you know, for vacations, family events, just general purpose photography, it's great. It's not heavy. This is pretty, you know, comfortable package to walk around with. So, you know, I think this lens has a lot going for it, and the firmware upgrade has made a difference. In fact, it's made enough of a difference I'm going to consider using it on my next fishing video. So check it out. Cheers.